Don't treat a book by its cover. I guess everyone has heard this phrase, and today what we are going to do is actually evaluate different book covers. The idea of this video has come to me when I realized that when you come to a bookstore, most of the books looks as following. And yeah, I realize why it is like that. This is just a commercial and practical reason for a customer just to grasp the name of the book and the name of the author as quick as possible. It's both convenient for the store and the customer. However, there is completely no creativity applied to this. This is just the pure practical thing. And it is a bizarre thing considering the fact that, for example, for music album covers, a lot of work is being done. Well, not to all the album covers, but at least to the most famous album covers. There is a lot of job in them, and they are pieces of art in themselves. And I think that book covers actually deserve more attention. Not compared to the music covers, just more attention to themselves, as they are actually, some of them, have a lot of things interesting in them. And today we're going to discuss some very interesting and iconic book covers that I found. And yeah, these are going to be the books I've read. I think it would be just a proper thing to do. No? Perhaps let's start from one of the most famous and recognizable book covers, the blue cover of The Great Gatsby. Yeah, I think you have seen this cover, and from my personal opinion, this is a very beautiful visually book cover featuring a very nicely selected blue color, the lights of a big but an empty city, and obviously huge eyes, but empty eyes looking both inside of you and into nothing. And I guess for those who read the book, they know how nicely the cover represents the main theme and main ideas of the book, the luxurious life that people live, but actually having nothing in themselves. And what is interesting about this book cover is the fact that it was painted before the book was finished. So the painter, Francis Cougar, had no idea. Well, maybe he had some ideas and topics that the book is about, but he definitely didn't read the full book. And actually, if you think about it, this is a very common thing to happen, because preparing a book, writing a book, and preparing a cover are two different processes, so they can obviously happen asynchronously. And this is a very common thing for painters not to know the topics of the book. But the artist was able to capture the main ideas and the topics of the book so nicely, and the author of the book, Francis Fitzgerald, liked it so much, such that he wrote to the publisher a following thing: "For Christ's sake, don't give anyone that jacket you are saving for me." And then he added, "I've written it into the book." It's not really clear what Fitzgerald meant by the last quote, but generally people agree that this refers to the moment when a huge billboard is visible for the main characters in the book. Speaking about the artist himself, there is actually very little information available about Francis Cougar. It is known that he was born in Spain, then part of his life he lived in France, then on Cuba, then he moved to the US. He was working as a commercial painter. At some point of his life, he was working for the cinematography industry that was developing at that time actively. And generally, this is it. It is also known that he obtained $100 for the cover of The Great Gatsby, which is around 1800s in the modern money. And I don't really know what are the salaries of book cover artists right now, but it doesn't really sound much for a legendary and iconic book cover. Don't you think so? And maybe one more interesting thing about the cover is the fact that a very famous writer, Ernest Hemingway, actually despised the cover of the book, calling it garish, despite generally the admiration and somewhat friendship with Francis Fitzgerald. And yeah, that's how it happens. Some very prominent people despise something, but eventually it becomes iconic. Alright, so moving forward with also a very legendary and iconic both book and book cover, The Catcher in the Rye. That's what it looks like, a red book cover with a horse, a carousel horse, which plays quite an important role in the book, being a symbol of transfer from the childhood to the adulthood. And generally, I really like this book cover, and well, I really like the book, obviously, but the book cover, I would say, adds up on my love to it. The cover was painted by the Salinger's friend, the author of the book The Catcher in the Rye, E. Michael Mitchell, and there is very little information available about Mitchell, but it is interesting that Salinger read snippets of the book to Mitchell when they were living close in Connecticut. And this is very surprising because of the fact that Salinger lived a very reclusive life. He rarely spoke about his works, he was very secretive about his works. Generally, it is quite a common fact that he was very hard in communicating, he had a lot of problems with his wives, and generally he was not a very sociable person. There is very little information about his life himself. And it's also interesting because Salinger was really fond of the idea that there should be nothing on the book cover but the name of the author and the name of the book, such that it does not saturate the main idea of the book, and the reader has a very clear and very unbiased perception about the book. However, the first edition of The Catcher in the Rye looked as following, yes, with the image of Salinger, and I honestly do not understand how it happened like that. And later on, Salinger filed a clause, and the book covers of The Catcher in the Rye became as like that. And regarding his, well, I would say, preoccupation with the idea of the only book name and author name on the cover of Hepworth 16, 1924 looked as following, with the name of the author and the name of the book on the spine, and the front page of the cover and the back page of the cover were just empty. And again, as I said, there is very little information about Mitchell himself. It is known that he served in army during World War II. They had somewhat of friendship with Salinger, but in 90s they had a fallout and then they stopped communicating. That's it. Before discussing the next book, I just want to say that I condemn everything bad you may think about. Just to be clear, I'm going to speak about Lolita and its book covers. One of the reasons why I added this book/movie to this list is because I have not seen any other book or movie in my life having that many different covers and posters, both the professional ones, the official ones, and the fan ones. And the interesting thing here is because there is a very famous film of Kubrick, released I guess in 1962, Lolita. And there was a girl with heart-shaped glasses on the cover. And in fact, this cover appeared to be very influential, such that a lot of book covers and film covers of Lolita featured this heart-shaped glasses. It became somewhat the direct association between Lolita and these glasses. Apparently, when Nabokov published his book, he did it in France because he was really worried about the censorship. The book cover featured nothing. There was just green color, the name of the book, and his name. And he actually didn't intend any girls to appear on the book, but eventually that's what it turned out to be. And there are a lot of amazing Lolita covers that I personally really like, but at the same time they're just disgusting, and I personally don't know how to look at it. But the interesting thing is that the cover of the film actually affected all the subsequent posters and covers of Lolita, and this association with glasses, well, I didn't really think about it that this is a Lolita thing, but now I probably would not be able to unsee this. Jesus Christ, just for you to know, I broke a cup, and I hope I will not die because of the shards. Jesus Christ. Continuing. I would say that the next book cover features the most recognizable ideas, because the original book cover of The Godfather has this puppet with strings and the font that probably has become the strongest association with The Godfather, maybe besides the Marlon Brando. And if you take a look at almost all the film posters, film covers, other book covers, they feature this, first of all, this font, The Godfather, written in this way with this long G, and this thing with strings. So one of the most recognizable thing, one of the most influential element of the book covers. And I think that the design of the book cover suits the story told in the book very nicely, because it is quite minimalistic, calm, but at the same very strong, grim, and mysterious in some way. It was painted by S. Neil Fujitsu, and the original first name is Sadamitsu. And the reason for that is because he was of the Japanese descent, and during the World War II, Japanese were moving to a different place, rather they were moved due to the special government order. And he took this name as Neil Fujitsu. And he's famous for actually introducing this abstract and minimalistic style to his book covers, to their album covers. He was actually a very established painter and artist. He painted a lot of jazz covers, and you can take a look at them. They are really abstract, I would say. And he's also famous for painting in the Cold Blood book cover, which I personally didn't read, and the On the Road book cover, which I also didn't read, but I watched the movie, and actually I recommend you watching the movie. Quite a good movie. And one more thing, while I was making this video, I found a very cool book cover. I don't really know if this is the official one or the somewhat a fan-like, but this book cover with a horse without a hat, which plays somewhat a role in the book, well, I guess it's just amazing, just stunning. Another very famous cover, the cover of the Brave New World. It was painted by Leslie Holland, and it honestly feels like a product of its time, the time of Art Deco, the expectations of the new technologies, of new things. It features the airplane as the symbol of the incoming a new way of traveling, the radio waves, which play an important role in the book. Generally, the topics of the futuristic dystopia that the book is full of, and thoughts about how the development of technologies would affect our lives and how it's going to be used for spreading misinformation, for spreading propaganda and controlling us. And I guess the book wasn't too wrong concerning the reality we're living in. But again, that was almost 100 years ago. Also, while making a research for this video, I found these book covers of The Brave New World, and I honestly think they should deserve more attention, and I personally like them more, especially this one with the rings. Well, just amazing, just visually, aesthetically, just huge pleasure for me to look at it. There are other books of Huxley that I would like to highlight the covers of. It's Island and Brave New World Revisited. Personally, Island, one of the most beautiful book covers that I've seen. The color is just amazing. Somewhat Arabian aesthetics, I don't know, I feel like some Dune aesthetics here. And Revisited is just these things around the title. Very beautiful, very cool. And in the beginning I lied a little bit, saying that there will be books only the one that I read. I haven't read Psycho, I only watched the film, but when I saw this book cover, I realized that I cannot avoid putting this book cover in the video, because I guess no other book cover conveys the main topic, the main theme, and the main emotion of the work than this book cover. Cracked and dismantled word Psycho, I guess this is probably the best way you can explain the main story without actually telling the story, and this cover is 100% on point. It was made by Tony Polidino, a famous artist of the previous century. He has made a lot of works. They were quite beautiful from my opinion, and well, he was generally a very good artist. And interestingly, that Alfred Hitchcock, who made the movie Psycho, liked the cover so much, so he bought the rights for the cover and used this design of the word psycho in his film cover. However, personally, just looking at this film cover and film poster, well, maybe this is just me, and looking at the designs of 60 years old film, it's not the way I should treat it, but personally, that was very bad, like completely not on point, as I would say. And finishing here, I'd like to discuss a little bit if we should treat books by their covers. Same thing with music albums and film posters. Well, obviously, this quote makes a lot of sense. However, at the same time, the chance that I like a movie or a music album is way more if I see a very cool album cover. And personally, I pay a lot of attention to this. And you know, for maybe young artists, for not very popular movies, I guess having a solid cover is very important. And I like that more and more people pay more attention to designing good covers and good posters for their works. So do not underestimate this thing, and this is something that a lot of creativity can be put onto. And seeing the books that I showed you in the beginning of the video, I don't know, it's just like why we are living in 2025, I guess, and having these boring book covers. The era of minimalism, yeah, I understand this, but isn't it the era of minimal creativity, isn't it?